It's not often I get to go to a swap meet and actually come home with more money than what I left with. And here's why. Hey everyone, welcome to Roads of Oz. My name is Matt, and on this episode we're talking about why you should keep your stock parts. Now, we've all done it. We've all gone out and bought that new bike, and first thing we do is we get rid of the exhaust and we put an aftermarket exhaust on, and we try flip the standard exhaust for next to bugger all, because pretty much not the only people who want it are someone that's crashed the bike and wants to offload the bike really quickly, or someone that got done for noise pollution and needs to get their stock pipe back on. There was a craze in the mid-noughties and early 2010s of customise your bike and getting these cafe races, and there were some really good looking ones. Problem was, the people that done a lot of these bikes, one, didn't know what they were doing, and two, well, they just gave up. But worse still, they had this stock sucks mantra. So the problem with that is, well, they got rid of their stock parts, trying to get a bit of cash together to actually buy the parts they wanted for their bike. And when that project didn't come to fruition, well, you're going to find a lot of them stuck in the garage in pieces. Now, that's okay. Just say you buy one of these projects, you're going to have your work cut out for you getting some of these parts, because they're getting harder to find. Now, a great example are these S2 parts I have behind me here. Just recently, when I was at the Bulleye Antique Motorcycle Show, I was going through the swap meet and just sparked up a conversation with someone looking for parts, and turned out he needed a whole heap of S2 parts for his bike, because his was customized yet didn't have the original parts. And now he's trying to on-sell that bike. There's been a massive change in what people want. A lot of people want bikes back to standard, back to stock, because that's where they're commanding the most amount of money. And the customized ones, well, they're not getting the same amount of cash, quite simply is because that's not what people are after. Now, that's the problem with customization, is the bike's customized to a person's specific taste. And that's okay if you've got other people that like it, but when you don't, it can be hard to move on. And more importantly, if that bike's starting to get a bit of collectability, cash, the more stock, the better. All right, so this is a great example of how things can change. Now, back when I was doing night shift in the early 2010s, I would be scouring eBay for bargains. Even in the late noughties, I was still doing that. I was scouring eBay, all your classifieds, trying to find parts, because the initial plan for me was to buy a 900 S2, and they were just getting too hard to find and too expensive. So I thought if I bought individual pieces, I'd be able to build one from scratch, and that was my plan. Well, those plans have changed quite significantly, so it's time to move these parts on. Now, I had no intention of selling them, because I thought, well, no one would be interested, and that's where I was wrong. Turns out people are trying to get the old bevel Ducatis back to as original condition as they can, especially if they're trying to sell them. Now, these parts back in the late noughties didn't cost too much, but today they're starting to command a bit of a premium, because for the simple fact, they're hard to find, and most people are searching for them to put them back on their restoration project. So here's my top tip. I'm a big fan of modifying bikes to suit the rider, but definitely don't get rid of those parts. Keep them, because when it comes to time to sell that bike on, more often than not, the next buyer is going to want the original parts. Not only this, no one predicted the future that was coming. Back in the late noughties, something like this was worth about 30 bucks. Try find something like this now, and here in Australia, you're looking at anywhere from $200 to $300. Now, that's definitely not in line with inflation. So here's my tip for this video. Two things. One, if you're buying a bike to restore, make sure it's got all its parts, because more often than not now, bikes have been sitting for over 10 to 15 years. Chances are they were hacked at by a beginner, and worse still, they've moved parts on. And number two, if you do have a complete bike and you want to modify it, keep hold of the original parts. Even though they might do nothing for you, in a few years down the track when you want to sell the bike, you've got the parts ready to put back on, and you'll find selling the bike is a lot easier. Anyway, that's pretty much it for me. Keep your stock parts, because later on, they're going to help you sell your bike. If you like this video, check out more of my videos just up here.